Today we celebrate President's Day, a day in the middle of the birthdays of Abraham Lincoln and George Washington, some of our most popular presidents. To celebrate, I bring to you one fun fact about every single U.S. president you might not have known, from George Washington to Joe Biden. George Washington's education came to a halt at the age of 11, shortly after his father died. However, this did not stop him from succeeding in life, as he went from a land surveyor to the first president of the United States. For the second fact, John Adams proposed giving the president the title His Majesty. Opponents of Adams mocked him by calling him His Rotundity, poking fun at his weight. 3. Thomas Jefferson was one of the first Americans to popularize ice cream, mac and cheese, and french fries. 4. James Madison never actually had a job outside of politics. 5. James Monroe is the only U.S. president to have the capital of a foreign country named after him. That is, Monrovia, the capital of Liberia. This is because he supported the Colonization Society, which founded Liberia. 6. John Quincy Adams, unlike his father, was well known for being incredibly fit. He often would take walks in Washington, D.C., and would take swims in the Potomac River. 7. Andrew Jackson was the first president to have had an assassination attempt on his life. His assassin pulled out a gun and tried to shoot Jackson, but the gun misfired. He pulled out a second gun, and that gun misfired as well, despite both guns functioning perfectly fine. After this, Jackson beat the assassin until people dragged him off. There are many theories as to why the guns misfired, but I think the most plausible theory is that the bullets were afraid of Jackson. Fact number 8. Martin Van Buren was the first U.S. president to have been born a U.S. citizen. All presidents before him were born before or during the American Revolution. Interestingly enough, Van Buren was also the only U.S. president to not speak English as his first language, as he grew up in a Dutch community in New York. 9. William Henry Harrison served the shortest time in office of any other president, as he died only 30 days after his inauguration. Despite his short time in office, he had an interesting influence on how presidential campaigns went, as he was the first president to use a campaign slogan. His slogan was Tippecanoe and Tyler too, referencing his nickname given after he won the Battle of Tippecanoe, as well as his running mate, John Tyler. 10. John Tyler was the first vice president to become president after the former president died. He was incredibly unpopular, as almost everyone in his cabinet, except for his Secretary of State, resigned, and he was nicknamed His Accidency. Tyler was also the only president to be buried in the flag of a country other than the United States. He was buried with a Confederate flag. 11. James K. Polk was a great friend of Andrew Jackson, and was nicknamed Young Hickory as a result. 12. Zachary Taylor was one of our most apolitical presidents in American history. He had vague political beliefs and was basically forced to run for president just because he was a war hero. Despite not being a partisan, he was fiercely against both slavery and secession, once threatening to hang all Southern political leaders if they left the Union. 13. Millard Fillmore started his political career as an anti-Mason, the first third party which was founded in opposition to Freemasonry. 14. Franklin Pierce was seen as quite attractive, so he was nicknamed Handsome Frank. 15. James Buchanan is often cited as America's worst president for not taking a position on slavery and some other things as well. 16. Abraham Lincoln is considered by many to be the inventor of the choke slam. Lincoln was a wrestler in his youth and used a move very similar to the modern choke slam. 17. Andrew Johnson never went to school. He taught himself. 18. The S in Ulysses S. Grant doesn't stand for anything. It was originally because a politician misspelled his name, adding a second S to the end of his first name, but he decided to just go along with it and add it to his name. 19. Rutherford B. Hayes is almost completely forgotten in America, but is venerated by many in Paraguay, as he saved Paraguay from being eaten up by Bolivia, Brazil, and Argentina. 20. James A. Garfield never actually sought to become president. The Republican convention basically just decided to make him the nominee against his wishes. 21. Some historians believe that Chester A. Arthur might not have even been born in America, but instead Canada. 22. Grover Cleveland was the first, and so far, the only U.S. president to serve 2 non-consecutive terms, making him both the 22nd and 24th U.S. president. 23. Benjamin Harrison was the grandson of William Henry Harrison, making the Harrison dynasty a unique case among presidential dynasties. 24. I already covered Grover Cleveland, but might as well give you another fact about him you haven't already heard. Grover Cleveland was the only president to be married in the White House. 25. William McKinley was 5th president from Ohio in 28 years. Interestingly enough, Virginia and Ohio are the states in the United States which have produced the most presidents out of any other state. 26. When running for a 3rd term, Theodore Roosevelt was shot in the chest while giving a speech. Instead of immediately seeking medical attention, he continued the speech for another hour and a half before finally going to the hospital. 27. William Howard Taft was the last president to keep a cow in the White House for fresh milk. 28. Oh gosh. Woodrow Wilson was a firm believer in the lost cause myth, which was a Southern perception of the Civil War which viewed the Confederacy in a much better light. 29. Warren G. Harding is often considered one of the least intelligent men to ever grace the Oval Office. He is quoted saying, "I am not fit for this office and never should have been here." 30. Calvin Coolidge was nicknamed Silent Cal for his reserved nature. There's a famous story where a woman walked up to him and said that a friend made a bet with her that she couldn't get more than 3 words out of him. He simply responded, "You lose." 31. Herbert Hoover was the first president to be born west of the Mississippi River, being born in Iowa. 32. Franklin D. Roosevelt died from I'm not even going to try and pronounce it, in the middle of being painted. That painting is now known as the unfinished portrait of Roosevelt. 33. Harry S. Truman was the poorest person to ever become president, having a net worth much less than $1 million. 34. Dwight D. Eisenhower was famously nicknamed Ike and used the campaign slogan, "I like Ike." 35. Despite being viewed highly for his position on civil rights, John F. Kennedy opposed a march on Washington and had fairly vague beliefs regarding civil rights in general. 36. Lyndon B. Johnson was well known for making crude jokes, including burping and farting. 37. Despite being thought of as being very conservative, Nixon created the Environmental Protection Agency and proposed an early form of a universal basic income program, or more specifically, a negative income tax program. They're not exactly the same, but they're pretty similar. 38. Gerald Ford was the only U.S. president to not be elected. He became president after Nixon resigned and lost re-election to Jimmy Carter. 39. Before he became president, Jimmy Carter was a peanut farmer. 40. Ronald Reagan mentioned starting a movement to repeal the 22nd Amendment, which would allow presidents to become president for as many terms as they want. 41. George H.W. Bush is well known in Japan for throwing up on the prime minister. The term bushusuru is used, which means to do the Bush thing. 42. Bill Clinton could play the saxophone and did so on the Arsenio Hall show. 43. George W. Bush's vice president, Dick Cheney, is considered to be one of the most influential vice presidents in American history. When Bush gave Cheney control for a short amount of time because he was getting surgery, Cheney immediately told his entire family that he was a president now. George W. Bush also has the same birthday as me, but that doesn't really matter. 44. Barack Obama used to speak quite a bit of Indonesian. 45. Donald Trump used to vote for the Reform Party, adopting many of their domestic policies into his own when he became president. Interestingly enough, his first presidential campaign was in the election of 2000, where he ran under the Reform Party banner. One of the weirdest parts of this was his proposal to make Oprah his vice president and enact more progressive fiscal policies, such as putting higher taxes on the rich and implementing free health care. 46. The current U.S. President, Joe Biden, is now the oldest U.S. president, beating the previous holder, Trump, by a few years. He also has passed the most executive orders of any other president in his first day in office. So there you have it, a little bit more than just one fact about every U.S. president. I had a lot of fun making this video, and I learned some things I hadn't known before as I studied for this. Recently, I hit over 150 subscribers, so thank you all for that. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.